I am in the production business. I understand what is worth doing for ratings. I understand what is worth doing when the industry is canceling one black guy. I know what happens when they are going to elevate another. And I know what happens when they don't care about either of them. This is how quarterbacking goes. So the question is, hey, your quarterback just got sacked. Did we know we was fin to sack your quarterback? We absolutely did. It was a play, buddy. We've been rehearsing it, working it out, making sure that at some point, when you get to this level, we can make sure we knock you from a $20 million man to putting in the news that people won't hire you no more.
Spoke to 50, then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this document.
Every scandal has a story the public gets to see, and a second version that never makes it past the edit bay. Katt Williams has a rule about this business. If it looks like chaos on screen and everybody's still getting paid, that means somebody called the play a long time ago. The fall of Diddy has that same smell all over it. The lawsuits, the raids, the leaked hotel room tapes. That's the version you were supposed to see. The safe version. The one that leaves a lot of people rich, quiet, and off camera. Because behind that polished Netflix documentary is a much messier story. A security guard who says he saw everything and got cut out. A co-founder who lost 25 of Bad Boy but somehow still protects Diddy's image. And a director who, if you believe the people in the room, decided from day one who would talk and who would never get the mic. Katt's been saying it for years. Nothing in a pretend-based business is accidental. Not the heroes, not the villains, and definitely not the people who go missing from the final cut. So tonight, we're not retelling Sean Combs' The Reckoning. We're asking a different question. If this story was quarterbacked from the start, what did they have to remove? And who did they have to silence to make Diddy look like the only monster in the room?
Everything that happens in a business, that's based off of pretend, that seems like a setup, is.
Yes. What I'm saying is, if Jussie Smollett and Lee Daniels for a living make stories that are not real, and they make them so good that people believe them and buy them, and that's what business they're in, why would you think it would be weird if they flipped out and said a story that turned out to not be true?
Why? Why would we think that? If they are capable of doing that for a living?
That's what they do for a living. They do that 300 episodes. Is take something fictitious and make it seem real. That's the business.
Katt breaks it down in the bluntest way possible. In a business built on pretend, anything that looks like a setup usually is. He's not talking theory. He's talking about writers, producers, and executives who spend their whole careers turning fiction into something you can't tell from real life, then applying the same playbook to people's careers. To him, scandals, nervous breakdowns, even public beefs aren't random explosions. They're storylines outlined in a room before you ever saw them. Once you hear him say that, the way Gene Deal describes the Diddy documentary starts to feel less like miscommunication and more like a script someone else already wrote. The security guard who walked Diddy into every room. The childhood friend. The business partner with 25 of Bad Boy. In Gene's version, those three were supposed to come in as a package and force the story to go deeper than the safe, Netflix-friendly surface. But watch what happens when the people who control the business decide which insiders actually make it to the final cut.
They got him on the phone, me and him was just talking. We was talking about old time sit down with Black Hands, sit down with, with Puff Kids, the whole Puff situation, and this documentary that he's gonna be doing. You know what I'm saying? So I told him that I was going to, have Kirk and Tim. Kirk will be the one who talk about the business part of it. Tim will be the one who talk about the growing up phase with Diddy and everything and over there working in the record industry with him and stuff like that. They was like family. And I was gonna talk about, the street stuff, what was going on with Bad Boy, with the security, with Wolf, with the city college, with, the time that I knew about when I was with him up until about early 2004 or something like that. But basically the streets and then the traveling with him and the atmosphere and everything, and then go back into the Notorious Big stuff with the Tupac and the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that I knew, you know what I'm saying? So we was talking and he sounded like, yo, listen here, they gonna spare no expense with this whole documentary. So I said, all right, cool.
The way Gene tells it, this all started the same way every big story in this industry starts, with a phone call from producers. They made it clear nobody knew Diddy's inner workings better than the man who walked him into every club, every studio, every hotel hallway. That's why they wanted Gene on board, not as some side character, but as one of the anchors of the entire documentary.
What I did was I spoke to Tim and I spoke to Kirk Burroughs. And I was like, yo, because I had Tim's number. Tim didn't know how to get into touch with Kirk. Kirk didn't know how to get into touch with Tim. But Kirk was trying to tell me, you know, give him the number with the Tim. I said, nah, I ain't doing that. You know, so I gave one of the producers the number in the whole 9 yards to get in touch with Tim because I want to see him get money because I know Tim got a hell of a story with Puff. So then I talked to Tim and I told him, yo, listen here, man, we should go in as a package deal. You know, all three of us, we could tell a hell of a story about this whole documentary. You know what I'm saying? From front to start. You know, and then whatever stuff that they get and everything like that. So yo, let's go in there and ask them for 50 a piece. You know what I'm saying? So Tim was like with it, yo, Gene, whatever, you know, go ahead like that. Kirk was like, yeah, okay, cool, Gene. You know, it was like a general census that we was gonna do this in a whole package deal. You know what I'm saying? And then I started speaking to the producers and everything like that, because 50 had told me himself that they was gonna spare no cost in doing this because he wanted to tell the story and he wanted to tell the story like it was supposed to be told and everything like that.
Gene says it wasn't supposed to be just him from the beginning. The plan was a package deal. Gene for the streets and security, Tim for the childhood and early years, and Kirk Burroughs for the business and bad boy paperwork. Three men who knew Diddy from every angle, coming in together, with a real cut of the project in return for putting their names, faces, and receipts on the line. And according to Gene, 50 was cool with that. The problem only started when the person in the director's chair decided that the man who'd seen everything was suddenly asking for too much.
The director, I gotta get her name, man, because it don't even sound. I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, you know, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got. I was doing footage. I had pictures. All the stuff that I had, you know, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, you know, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. You give, if you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, you know, one thing led to another, and I was like, yeah, all right, well then, you know, F you, you know, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay, he determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, you know what I'm saying, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burroughs giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm not get out of here. I know what kind of dude you is anyway. Me and you cool and everything, Kirk, but don't call me about no business with this stuff like that. And then what I found out is that he was making a deal, cutting a deal for himself as well as Tim. You understand? And I was trying to get a deal for all three of us. You understand? So that's how them industry cats go. You know, that's what they.
This is where the story flips. Gene says the minute real money and real control came up, it wasn't 50 telling him no. It was the director. She's the one who, according to Gene, called his prices crazy, brushed off invoices he'd already been paid by other documentaries, and told him flat out that 50 Cent doesn't decide who gets paid or what goes in. In other words, the man whose name is all over the poster is just branding. The real power over the narrative sat in that director's chair. Behind the scenes, Gene says you could feel the switch. While he was fighting to get a fair cut for himself and the two men he brought in, he found out Kirk was already working on a side deal. Tim and Kirk were getting courted. Contracts were being carved out. And suddenly, the guy with the footage, the photos, and the darkest stories was the one being treated like a problem. That fits a pattern you see all over Hollywood. The person with the most dangerous details gets labeled difficult, while the softer storytellers, the ones who will keep things neat, emotional, and lawsuit safe, get ushered right in front of the camera.
First and foremost, you got your man Russell Simmons out here dealing with these young girls. You understand? Kim Porter was one of them. She was then passed from Russell Simmons to Andre Harrell. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just gonna give it to you. You understand? Because these we out here playing, talking all this acting like they know what they talking about. She was working for Russell first, then she was passed over to Andre Harrell. You understand? So now Andre Harrell has her in the office and stuff like that. And it was said that it was a girl also in Uptown, and I don't know if it was Kim. I don't know if it was Kim or one of her friends walked in on Andre Harrell getting a fellatio and was given a red Mercedes-Benz 300C for keeping her mouth closed behind her. You understand? Because when Kirk Burroughs was talking about Puff did that or whatever like that, you understand? It actually happened to Andre Harrell up in Uptown Records. Kim Porter's at the desk because Andre Harrell is doing Russell Simmons a favor by giving her a job over there. Because now Russell Simmons is trying to get her friend Kamoya, because all of them was all of them was models. Kim, Kamoya, and they was young girls. So now her and Al get together and everything like that. Check this out. Kim didn't get with Puff until Puff got his deal. Because you gotta realize, Misa Kim was cool. Kim didn't get with Puff until after Puff got his deal. So all that, he got her from Al and stuff like that. Nah. She went with the money was, bro. She went with the money. And you could call it whatever you want to. You understand what I'm saying? That's how it was.
Even the love story gets a rewrite. In the glossy version, Diddy is the villain who stole Kim Porter from Al B. Sure, like some had soap opera. But when you listen to the people who were actually there, the picture changes. The way Gene's side tells it, nobody dragged Kim anywhere. She followed the power and the money, just like the industry trains everybody to do. That stolen girl narrative didn't survive because it was true. It survived because it was dramatic, easy to sell, and kept you from asking harder questions about how much control Diddy really had over everyone in his orbit.
They said Big had paid for his funeral through his budget. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody would know that, Kirk Burrows would know that. And I heard Wayne Barrows came out and said some shit, but to refute that. You know what I'm saying? But if Miss Wallace got a check and the check, if she got Biggie's, if they had Biggie's budget and that was taken out, money was taken out that budget for his funeral, he did use it. And if anybody knew that, Kirk Burrows would know that. It was his manager. Big had told me that he was gonna get rid of them because they didn't know what they was doing before he died. I had a conversation with Big. Big said, yo, I'm getting rid of them because they didn't want to F me up, because they didn't want to convince him to sell his publishing and his marketing to Puff. They was Puff boys. I guess they met in school or whatever like that. But Big was gonna get rid of them. But because he died and his mother didn't know the business, she kept him around for years. If you look at anything that happened with the Notorious Biggs and his camp, you see Wayne Barrows on there as executive producer. And he was just a manager of some of Big affairs. He was executive producers of damn near everything that went on that had to do with. If Miss Wallace was the executive producer, he was the executive producer too. Look at some of the things that was done. And now he's suing, trying to get money from Faith because of, he's saying that she has to pay the Wallace estate, and Miss Wallace is dead, Big is dead. If the estate is anything, it's CJ, Tatiana, and Faith. That's the estate.
You see the same thing when Kirk Burrows talks about Biggie's money on camera. He comes off like the reasonable executive, calmly walking you through what Big was supposed to get, what the contracts looked like, how the label handled it. But the way Gene and other insiders frame it, Kirk knew every number on those checks and still left out the ugliest parts. Instead of blowing open how much Big really generated and who actually ate off his legacy, his testimony props up a safer story. One where the system might have made mistakes, but nobody straight up bled the biggest artist on the label dry. For a documentary that claims to be a reckoning, that's a very convenient kind of amnesia.
Then there was a situation that somebody said long time ago in the office. They caught Kirk giving Puff a fellatio in the office. Now that was the rumor that was going around. How true it is? They was lovers. It came out in his lawsuit. He tried to say that Puff was, what he said, him. But if somebody you, how you letting them come stay at your house every Wednesday night? After the club? I think they were boyfriends, you know. I think, my honest opinion, I think Kirk was in love with Puff to a certain degree. And Puff was using him, and Kirk was giving up the bugina to him. Anything Puff asked him to do, he would do. You know, he'd go at people, he'd talk. Kirk would talk to you on the behalf of Puff. And I believe that that was his man to a certain degree in his mind. And the way he was saying documentary, you could feel that they had a relationship. He was hurt behind being Justin's godfather. He allowed Puff to tell him that he was caught up with Misa and everything like that. He believed all this I got out of it. I don't know what you and the other people got out of it. He was saying like he was a scorned lover.
But how did you find out that he gave Diddy fellatio? You know who they came from?
Well, we heard that a long time ago. Like when I was working for Bad Boy. I heard that rumor a long time ago. I was working for Bad Boy that Kurt was caught up giving them a fellatio in the office. And they got rid of one of the interns for walking in on him or something like that. You understand? But then Kurt come out in this documentary, in this lawsuit, and say he was giving Puff was making him, giving him fellatios and the bugina. That's in his lawsuit. But I guess if Cassie is a scorn lover, Kirk has the right to be a scorn lover too.
But listen to Gene, and you start to see a second layer. He doesn't just talk about contracts. He talks about emotion. He paints Kirk as someone who wasn't just a partner, but borderline in love with Diddy. Someone ready to do anything for him, ride through firings, deaths, and breakdowns, and then left shattered when the door finally closed. When you rewatch Kirk's scenes in the documentary with that in mind, the calm executive starts to look more like a man trying not to let heartbreak show on camera, especially when he describes handing back those shares and getting nothing in return. That's what makes his role in Biggie's story so disturbing. According to Gene's side, Kirk wasn't just some bystander. He knew the whole story and still chose to give a version that keeps the ugliest truths off the record.
It's coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they killed this $20 million guy, but they reaped $60 million in benefits.
By now, the pattern is hard to unsee. Katt lays out a business where nothing is coincidental, where stars are built up like 20 million investments and taken down the moment they stop serving the script. Gene walks you through how the one man who saw everything got treated like a liability the moment he asked to be paid like his stories mattered. And Kirk stands there in the middle. Co-founder, alleged ex-lover, victim, and gatekeeper. Telling just enough truth to make Diddy look evil, but not enough to set the whole machine on fire. So if Katt is right, and this world runs on plays, not accidents, then Diddy's reckoning starts to look less like a one-man fall and more like a carefully managed sacrifice. The monster gets named. The doc goes #1. The safest insiders get their close-ups. And the people with the darkest footage stay on the outside, still holding stories nobody was willing to pay for. At that point, you have to ask yourself, did they really give you the truth about Diddy, or just the version that kept everyone else in his world rich, employable, and comfortably off-screen? So here's where this turns back on you. If this is how they handled one of the most powerful men in hip-hop, what do you think happens to the artist with no money, no lawyer, and no camera on their side? And when you watch that documentary again, whose eyes are you going to believe? The ones that made the final cuts, or the ones they decided were just too dangerous, too emotional, and too expensive to let you hear in full? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new upload. Until then, fam, keep it real.